Now, we as individuals all live our own lives and stuff. If we go through certain things in our own day, some people know about it, some don't. But there's one thing in common that we all face, and it's that thing that can either bust pipes or create diamonds. Exactly what I'm talking about is pressure. Pressure, pressure, pressure. And in this video today, I'm going to talk about which Carolina Panthers, I got 5 of those guys, are going to be under the most pressure going into this year, coming forward with a lot to prove. And it's just internal pressure, external pressure, pressure from the team, pressure from the fans. It comes from everywhere. And we're going to talk about who's under the most pressure this year. But before we get into that, let me introduce myself. My name is Aaron Duncan here with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. Start off every video by saying, what up, dude? Here at the Necessary Bluntness, I give recap and analysis of the Carolina Panthers. So if you want to see more videos about the squad, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below with the bell icon. That way you get a notification every time I drop a video and you don't miss anything, because I do podcasts, live streams, film breakdowns, stuff like that. So you don't want to miss anything. Make sure you guys are subscribed. But I want to get you guys' opinion first, like I always do. Let me know down below in the comments. Give me one name on this Carolina Panthers team roster. It can be front office, players, ownership, whoever. Who is under the most pressure this coming year and why? I want you guys to let me know down below in the comments. We can talk about it back and forth down there below. So let me know down below. And my choices are in no particular order whatsoever, but the first name I have on my list is Derrick Brown, the former first-round draft pick. Now, it's hard to argue that our run defense hasn't improved since he's been here, because obviously when Ron Rivera's on his way out, we were a shell of ourselves. Being one of the best front seven for a while with Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, KK Shortstar, Latulele, those days are long gone when we were just stout against the run and our secondary was kind of suspect. But we ended up addressing Derrick Brown as the BPA in that year's draft, and he did help improve. Now, he wasn't the only factor in our run defense improving, but it's hard to deny that it's clear it hasn't gotten better since he's been here. Now, how much does that have to do with him? Who knows? Nevertheless, this guy has not really put up the big numbers that we expected from a top 10 draft pick. Yes, that year was a little bit confusing. Had Justin Herbert fell to us, it sounds like from all intents and purposes and reports from the coaching staff that Herbert would have been the pick for the Panthers. But it seemed like Brown was the best player available because of his strength, his power, what he showed in college to be able to dominate on the inside. But we haven't really seen that. There has been some flashes in some games. I'm thinking Green Bay game of last year where he had a couple sacks on Aaron Rodgers. But we haven't really seen him put it all together. Now, certain defensive tackles really put it together later, as we see top guys like KK Short and Fletcher Cox didn't really put everything together, the full package, until that third season. So with the third season coming up, Derrick Brown's under a lot of pressure. And as a first-round draft pick, there is that fifth-year option that looms. Now, the thing about the fifth-year option is teams have to choose to elect that fifth-year option going into that player's fourth year. Yes, it's very, very weird, but you have to base it off of those first 3 years. And without Derrick Brown going to a Pro Bowl or doing anything like that, the number will be pretty cheap. However, if he doesn't show any promise or any kind of reason to be a part of the long-term plan for the Panthers, they may not exercise that fifth-year option, and he may either hit the free agency and end up somewhere else, or they try to renegotiate after that fourth year and see what happens from there. But nevertheless, it's crunch time for Derrick Brown. I think fans want to see the impact and see his name in the paper a little bit more. The team probably does also, especially after getting benched last year by the coach at some point for Bravion Roy. That's a head scratcher for your first round top 10 pick. So you definitely want to see Derrick Brown put it together this year. Next name on my list is YGM. Yes, Yetur Gross-Matos, the former second round pick, who has had some injury concerns, hasn't really been able to crack the starting lineup consistently, and it just really haven't been able to get on the field overall. You know, he's been underwhelming when it comes to statistical standpoint, only playing 48% of the snaps and 38% of the snaps in his first 2 years, respectively. That's not a lot for a guy who they thought could possibly evolve into a JPP type of player just because of his long arms. But it seems like so far, the only coincidence and things they have in common with JPP is the fact that they both have 3 names, Yetur Gross-Matos and Jason Pierre-Paul, with a little hyphen in the middle. So I want to see YGM put it together. With Hassan Reddick gone, it seems like they want to be bigger and better against the run. So they're going to probably start him this year, or he's going to have every opportunity to start. And the opportunity is there now. You have to show up and make some plays as a second-round pick or show that you weren't the waste, because just being some rotational piece as a second-round pick, it's almost a throwaway pick. And he's one of Matt Rule's first draft picks in this system. And so I want to see develop into what they think and what they say he can be. At times when he's had his opportunity, he has made plays. But like I said, between injuries and just not seeing the field because of the rotation being too strong and him being buried in the depth chart, YGM hasn't had those opportunities. So I want to see what he does now that Hassan Reddick is gone and there will be a lot more opportunity for him to make plays. The next Panther that I have on this list is Robbie Anderson. Now, Robbie Anderson was coming off that 1,000-yard year in his first year with the Panthers with Teddy Bridgewater throwing him the ball. But the following year, his production was short. About 50% shorter than it was that initial year. He got that contract after getting at 1,000-yard year, and we just thought it was going to be big things, a dynamic duo between him and DJ Moore, 2,000-yard wide receivers. DJ Moore got another 1,000-yard season. Robbie Anderson, not so much. Now, with the quarterback being a revolving door, that doesn't really help his cause, but he had a little background repertoire with Sam Darnold, and he seemed fairly excited about Darnold when he first got here. So what's changed? I know Sam Darnold's not the quarterback that we all want or hope for, but you still expect a guy that you pay some money to make plays. Now, I'm not big on the amount of money. I really don't care. I'm hoping all these players get their money because they put their lives on the line playing football. But these fans are pretty sour on Robbie Anderson at this point because of that contract, because of his personality, because of the way he talks and carries himself on social media. Doesn't really affect me, like I say, personally, but it is time for him to put up or shut up, especially with the rumors of him possibly being traded during draft weekend that were floating, or the possibility of him being traded before the trade deadline. Who knows? Who knows what was real? Who knows what was fake? Because Mr. In on every deal, Scott Fitter, never really gave us anything concrete, but sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens, but I think Robbie Anderson is under immense pressure because they're going to be looking also for Terrace Marshall Jr. to get a lot more playing time and to show that he can be the piece for the future. One, because he's younger, cheaper, and he's bigger, and I think he has more talent than Robbie Anderson. Terrace Marshall just has to put it all together in his second year, and I think he's going to be breathing down Robbie Anderson's neck in training camp for more playing time, so the pressure is on Robbie. The next pick seems a little bit much of a reach, and you may argue with this one, but I have to say that under some pressure is going to be Ike Ekwonu, the Panthers' first-round draft pick. Now, hear me out. Ike Ekwonu was that number 6 pick that the Panthers were able to get. You know the scenario that happened with all 3 tackles actually being out there on the table. Nobody thought all 3 was going to be. Maybe we thought 2, maybe 1 that would have their choice amongst the top guys, and they were comfortable taking either Charles Cross, Evan Neal, or Ike Ekwonu. It also just so happened to fall that they got the pick of the litter and they got to get who they wanted to get, and they decided to go with Ike Ekwonu because of his nastiness, his versatility to play at guard and tackle at times too, and just the fact that he's a hometown kid, grew up a Panthers fan. You love the story and it makes a ton of sense. However, the Panthers did indeed pass on Rashawn Slater last year. Now, a lot of people thought that, okay, they should have took Slater because he seems like he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler and All-Pro his whole career. Matt Rule had his concerns about Slater possibly only being a guard because of his arm length and and they passed on him, and he plugged in day one and protect Justin Herbert he's going to do that from now into infinity and beyond. Nevertheless, they took J.C. Horn. That was a good pick, but they decided to pass on tackle last year. This year, with them having to pick of the litter, they had to choose the right one. Sometimes having options isn't always as good. Now, I do think Icky was the best pick for us, but let's say that Evan Neal comes in and from day one has a Rashawn Slater-like run up in New York for the Giants. Let's say that Charles Cross comes in and has a rookie year, a spectacular year, just like Slater also. Let's say Icky struggles a little bit out the breaks. Maybe he ends up playing guard his first year, which Matt Rule has hinted because he says sometimes guys take a little bit of time to play tackle. He said that, not me. But let's say he struggles a little bit for that left tackle position because of the tough schedule that the Panthers play in the NFC South and some of the tough names that they have on this roster on the schedule as far as pass rushers. You start to scratch your head like, okay, did they make the right choice? They had a couple other options at tackle. Did they pick the right tackle out of the bunch? Who knows? So there may be a little bit of pressure on Icky because not to mention the Panthers have had a different starting left tackle since Jordan Gross retired. There's almost 10 years in a row there have been a different left tackle. It's literally been a revolving door. And the Panthers fans are praying that this is the answer. I think he will be, but they are praying for the answer. So there is going to be immense pressure for him to perform right away and to be that answer that we wanted for so long. So there is some pressure on Ike Ekwonu. Pay attention to that. And last but not least, you guys already know who this is. And it may not be external pressure or internal pressure from ownership, but it's some pressure on Matt Rule. You know, Matt Rule, he's going into year 3. Year 3 in his program. And I know he got that long big boy 7-year deal. And they're saying that stuff wasn't made overnight and they want to have sustainable success and be patient and this, that, and the third. And everybody was selling that year 3 is the year that Matt Rule typically turns it around in every stop that he had, whether it was Temple, whether it was Baylor. Now let's see if he can do the same thing in Carolina. Now, he's always had this mentality and he talks like he's the smartest guy in the room, and that's how they've operated. They've kind of restructured things where he has a lot less involvement and boots on the ground when it comes to personnel decisions. They deferred to Scott Fitter a lot more. They've also brought in a lot more experienced coaches, which they should have did the first time around, but they brought in some experienced coaches, some coaches with former head coaching experience. When you think about McAdoo and Steve Wilkes, and that's going to be dividends for Matt Rule. That way he can focus on in-game operation, which he's also struggled with. It's not just that Matt Rule has struggled with developing, managing the roster, putting players together, making the quarterbacks visit correctly. When it comes to game day, he struggled with clock management, timeout management, getting in and out of the huddle procedurally. There's been a lot of issues that can be preventable by quality coaching that Matt Rule has struggled with thus far. So there's a lot of pressure on him on that front too. I know a lot of people are mad about the unfair criticism about some of the off the field stuff, but it's hard to argue in game that Matt Rule doesn't fumble the bag time and time again when it comes to clock management and timeouts. That's something he has to improve on with more experience on his coaching staff. He should be able to step back a little bit more, be more of a CEO role and improve on that point. Study on that. You're an analytics-based guy. Use that. Use that to your advantage. And there's going to be pressure from these fans because if this thing goes sour, attendance will be low again. I'm going to say it. Attendance will be low again. You're going to see more away fans than home fans as usual. As usual. And from what Matt Rule says, that David Tepper preached to him that was a 5-year plan. So he may not be under any pressure, but there's going to continue to be questions. You heard the rumors about Sean Payton possibly taking his spot. Stuff like that doesn't happen when you're a quality coach. But when you only win 10 games in 2 seasons, people start questioning your ability, and the people that drank the Kool-Aid on you coming out of college, they're starting to realize that Kool-Aid doesn't have any sugar. So the proof is in the pudding, man. You're going to have to put up or shut up this year, Matt Rule. It's about that time to do it. You guys let me know down below in the comments, who do you think out of the 5 I listed is under the most pressure? Who was your pick? I want to talk about it down below with you guys, but you make sure you are subscribed to the channel and hit the bell icon. That way you don't miss anything. I'll see you guys in the next video.